Imagine this. It's ancient China, somewhere around 200 AD. You're sitting by a flickering oil lamp, and in your hands, you hold a book. Not a screen, not a scroll, a real book. But here's the twist. That book isn't handwritten by one poor soul doing line after line in a dark room. No, it's printed. And that's a huge deal. You see, printing back then was like discovering magic. The printing revolution was more radical than you might think. It wasn't just about cranking out books. It changed how people thought, how they learned, and even how they ruled. And all of it began with some clever minds figuring out how to make words appear again and again, without hand cramps. Let's start with the Han Dynasty in China. They had this technique called woodblock printing. Picture this, someone carving entire pages, backward, onto blocks of wood. Backward, because they'd then slap ink on it and press it onto paper, so it'd read forward. Imagine messing up on the last line after days of carving. Talk about stress. But it worked, and it meant they could print whole books and scrolls faster than ever. Woodblocks were the first step toward mass production, and, for the first time, people could share knowledge widely. Now, let's hop a few centuries forward, because here comes the big league. The Song Dynasty and the creation of movable type. Woodblock printing was great, but what if you wanted to change a single character? Start carving again? No. Instead, they made individual little blocks for each character that you could move around. Need a new sentence? Rearrange the blocks, slap on some ink, and go. Genius! It was like an ancient version of Scrabble, but instead of scoring points, they were making history. But here's the catch. Chinese characters were tricky. There were thousands of them. Imagine juggling thousands of little blocks and trying to keep them organized. It was like the world's most intense Lego set. Despite that, movable type spread. And it spread big. Then, it hit Korea. Korean innovators looked at movable type and said, okay, we can do this too. Maybe even better. The Koreans were so into it that by the 13th century, they'd started using metal for movable type instead of wood or clay. Metal type was durable, and they created more accurate prints. So they could print books faster and with fewer mistakes, which was crucial for spreading all kinds of ideas. Now, let's fast forward to 15th century Europe, where things are about to go nuts. Enter Johann Gutenberg, a German goldsmith who wasn't into books just for fun. He saw what the Asians were doing and thought, hey, what if we use this technology with our alphabet? Instead of thousands of characters, he only needed 26 letters. Just 26. He crafted individual metal letters, set them into words and sentences, coated them with ink, and pressed them onto paper using a wine press. Yes, a wine press. This invention, the Gutenberg press, exploded across Europe. And what did they print first? The Bible. Gutenberg printed about 180 copies, and each one was as valuable as gold. Before this, only monks could copy the Bible, taking months or even years to make a single book. With the press, he could print hundreds. Suddenly, books weren't just for the elite anymore. Anyone who could read and afford it could get their hands on knowledge. Knowledge was no longer locked up in dusty monasteries. But here's the funny thing. Gutenberg, the guy who revolutionized information, didn't get rich from his own invention. In fact, he went bankrupt. He couldn't keep up with the costs and had to hand over his press to his investors. So while the printing revolution was taking off, poor Gutenberg was left out of the riches. With printing now possible, ideas spread like wildfire. People started printing pamphlets, newspapers, and anything that could share an idea. The Reformation? Yeah, it wouldn't have happened without the press. Renaissance knowledge? Same deal. The printing press didn't just spread ink on paper. It spread ideas, broke down barriers, and changed the world. From Asia to Europe, printing allowed people to challenge authorities, share discoveries, and question the status quo. And all this from a bit of wood, some metal, and a whole lot of creativity. The printing press, in its many forms, was the ancient internet. Imagine logging onto the internet for the first time, the excitement of endless knowledge right at your fingertips. That's what people felt when books became available to everyone. So next time you're scrolling through articles on your phone or reading a favorite novel, think back to the people who carved woodblocks in ancient China, who rearranged thousands of tiny characters in Korea, and who hammered out metal letters in Europe. These ancient printing wizards built the foundation for every page and every screen we read today. And hey, if this journey through ancient printing blew your mind, maybe think about subscribing. Join us for more cool stories that show just how wild history can get. Hit that subscribe button, and who knows, maybe you'll help bring the next revolution.